The ghost who found her light. Have you ever felt like a shadow in your own life? The one who plans, sacrifices, and holds the world together, only to find yourself erased from the story you wove with your own hands. This is the story of Eleanor. Grace, a mother, a dreamer, a woman who gave everything for others, only to discover that her own heart deserved to be seen. It's a story of loss, awakening, and the courage to reclaim a life that had been quietly forgotten. Part 1. The dream that kept her going. Eleanor Grace, 63, stood in her modest kitchen, surrounded by the familiar hum of a life well-worn. The linoleum floor bore faint scratches from decades of footsteps her own, her late husband James's, and their only son Nathan's, back when he was small enough to race toy cars across it. For 3 years, this kitchen had been the cradle of, quote, her greatest dream, a family vacation to Hawaii. Not just a trip, but a Lagosha chance to stitch together the frayed threads of her family, torn apart after James's sudden death 5 years ago. The dream wasn't about palm trees or sunsets. It was about love. It's about bringing Nathan, his wife Sarah, their 2 children, and even Sarah's parents back to a place where they could laugh, share stories, and remember what it meant to be a family. Eleanor had poured every spare moment and penny into this vision. She skipped lunches, eating plain toast instead of dining out with colleagues. Her shoes, patched and faded, carried her through long shifts at the library. Coffee dates with friends were traded for quiet evenings at home, where she'd slip another $10 bill into a glass jar tucked behind the flour tin in her pantry. Each bill was a promise, a tangible piece of her heart. Eleanor didn't just plan a vacation, she crafted a memory. She booked flights for 7, secured an oceanfront villa with a wraparound porch, and arranged airport transfers to ensure everyone arrived without stress. She handpicked every detail. A traditional Hawaiian luau with roasted Kahlua pork and hula dancers under starlit skies. Soft, hypoallergenic pillows for Sarah's mother, who had back issues. Tiny gift bags for her grandchildren, Ella and Liam, filled with bracelets engraved with Aloha, Grandma loves you. Ginger candies for motion sickness, and travel-sized sunscreen bottles. Every choice was a brushstroke in a portrait of love she hoped would endure long after she was gone. In her suitcase, Eleanor packed more than clothes. There was the floral dress she wore on her first date with James, its hem slightly frayed but still vibrant with memories of a summer evening in 1982. A small lavender candle, James's favorite scent, nestled beside a framed photo of the two, of them laughing on a pier, their faces sun-kissed and carefree. She planned to light the candle on the beach one night, a quiet moment to honor James and share his memory with her family. This trip wasn't just a gift, it was her soul laid bare. Part 2. The message that shattered her 2 days before the flight. Eleanor sat at her kitchen table, her packed suitcase resting by the door like a loyal companion. The house was quiet, save for the soft ticking of the clock James had hung above the sink. She traced her fingers over the itinerary she'd printed, each line a testament to her devotion. Her phone buzzed, pulling her from her thoughts. A message from Nathan. Her heart lifted, expecting a question about the trip or a rare expression of excitement. Instead, the words on the screen struck her like a physical blow. "You're not coming? Sarah wants this trip to be just her side of the family. You've done your part, you've paid for it." The message was cold, clinical, as if she were a vendor who'd fulfilled a contract. No warmth, no apology, no trace of the boy who once clung to her hand and called her his hero. Eleanor stared at the screen, her breath shallow, waiting for the words to rearrange themselves into something that made sense. They didn't. She didn't reply. She didn't cry. She sat in the silence, her hands folded in her lap, as if searching for the woman she used to be, the one who laughed easily, who believed her love was enough to hold her family together. In that moment, Eleanor Grace felt like a ghost, invisible in the life she'd spent decades building. Part 3. The spark in the silence that night. The stillness of the house pressed against her like a weight. Eleanor wandered to her small office, where an old laptop hummed to life. She opened the spreadsheet labeled Hawaii trip, its numbers a map of her sacrifices. $21,763.84. Every skipped coffee, every worn-out pair of shoes, every quiet night alone was accounted for in that figure. It wasn't just money, it was her hope, her love, her belief in a family that no longer saw her. Her cursor hovered over the freeze account button. But before she clicked, something stirred within her, a flicker of defiance, a refusal to let this be the end of her story. She opened a blank document and began typing names. Carol, Beverly, Nora, women she knew from church, from the library, from quiet conversations over tea. Women who, like her, had given everything to others, only to be left behind. Carol, 67, who spent holidays alone since her children moved across the country. Beverly, 70, who slept on a cot in her brother's spare room, caring for him through Alzheimer's with no one to care for her. Nora, 65, who once whispered to Eleanor at a book club meeting, "The worst part of aging isn't the wrinkles, it's becoming invisible." Eleanor's fingers paused over the keyboard. These women weren't just names, they were mirrors of her own heart, reflecting years of quiet sacrifice and unspoken pain. In that moment, she made a choice. She froze the account, locking away the funds that had been meant for a family who no longer wanted her. And then she began to plan. Part 4. A journey reimagined. The next morning, Eleanor didn't call Nathan. She didn't send a text or demand an explanation. Instead, she picked up the phone and dialed Carol. "I'm going to Hawaii," she said, her voice steady, "and I want you to come with me." There was a long pause, followed by a hesitant, "Wait, I've booked a villa. There's room for you. You deserve this." Carol's laughter, tinged with disbelief, was the first spark of joy Eleanor had felt in days. She called Beverly next, then Nora, and 3 more women, Margaret, Susan, and Lila, whose names might never grace history books, but whose lives had carried the weight of generations in silence. These were women who had raised children, nursed parents, mended hearts, and buried dreams, all while fading into the background of their own stories. Eleanor rebooked the trip, but this time it was different. No longer was she crafting a perfect family moment to please others. This was about reclaiming joy for herself and for the women who deserved to be seen. She secured a new villa, smaller but still oceanfront, with a porch that caught the morning light. She arranged a luau, not for show but for celebration. The gift bags were replaced with simple leis, each one a promise of a new beginning. Number. Hashtags, no matching shirts, no expectations, just 6 women with weathered hearts, ready to rediscover what it meant to live. Part 5. Days that breathed life. The villa was a sanctuary of light and air, its windows framing endless views of the Pacific. The breeze carried the scent of salt and hibiscus, and the sunsets painted the sky in hues of coral and gold. Eleanor placed the framed photo of James on the dining table, its presence a quiet anchor. No one questioned it. No one asked her to hide her past. Instead, they gathered around it, sharing their own stories of love and loss. Each evening, the women lit a lavender candle and spoke words they wished they'd heard at 30. You are enough. Your worth isn't measured by what you give others. Don't need permission to shine. They didn't dwell on the families who had forgotten them or the years spent in the shadows. Instead, they talked about what kept them alive, the books they loved, the dreams they still carried, the moments that made their hearts sing. They danced barefoot on the beach, their laughter echoing over the waves. They shared stories until Their stomachs ached from giggling. They cried without shame, their tears mingling with the ocean's salt. Eleanor felt something shift inside her. For the first time in years, she wasn't planning for someone else's happiness. She was living her own. She was no longer the ghost in her own story. She was the author writing a new chapter with every sunrise. Part 6. The silence that spoke while Eleanor and her newfound family watched the sun dip below the horizon. Nathan was at the airport, his face flushed with panic. The credit card he'd used to check in for the flight was declined. The villa reservation had vanished. He called Eleanor, then texted, then emailed, each message more frantic than the last. "Mom, what's happening with the account?" Then, a second message. "Can you at least refund the deposit so we can rebook?" There was no apology, no recognition of the hurt he'd caused, just demands, as if her role was to fix his problems, even after being cast aside. Eleanor read the messages under the soft glow of the villa's porch light. She felt no anger, only clarity. She closed her laptop and turned her gaze to the ocean, where the waves whispered a truth she'd forgotten. Her worth didn't depend on their validation. Her silence was her answer, and it was enough. Part 7. The freedom of being seen in. The final night, the 6 women walked hand in hand along the shoreline, the sand cool beneath their feet. The stars above seemed brighter, as if celebrating their courage. No one needed a spotlight or an invitation. They had found something deeper than recognition, belonging. Eleanor paused at the water's edge, holding a hand towel embroidered with her name meant for her granddaughter, Ella. It was a small thing, but it carried the weight of her old dreams. She let it slip from her fingers, watching it drift into the sea. "You may forget me," she whispered, "but I won't forget myself again." As the waves carried the towel away, Eleanor felt a lightness she hadn't known in years. She wasn't just letting go of pain, she was claiming her freedom. Epilogue. A voice for the forgotten. If you've ever felt like a ghost in your own life, erased by the very people you poured your heart into, know this: you are not invisible. Your sacrifices, your love, your quiet strength, they matter. You don't need permission to live boldly, to laugh loudly, to take up space in the world you've helped create. This is the story of Eleanor Grace. But it's also the story of countless women who have carried the weight of love and loss in silence. It's a reminder that healing begins when you choose to see yourself. When you surround yourself with those who see you too. This is real moments where forgotten hearts find their voice, where true stories are told, and where the journey to reclaiming yourself begins.